In a quaint rural setting where rolling hills kissed the horizon and the air was filled with the crisp scent of grass and wildflowers lived a rambunctious Labrador puppy named Max. With his soft, golden fur glistening in the sunlight and big, expressive eyes that sparkled with mischief, he was the heart of his loving family. The Evanses had welcomed him into their lives just a few months prior, and since then he had transformed their home into a whirlwind of joy and laughter. Max was a ball of energy, always eager to explore every corner of the sprawling backyard. His days were filled with adventures, chasing butterflies, splashing in puddles after rain showers, and wrestling with his favorite toy, a frayed rope that had seen better days. The puppy's playful spirit was infectious. It made everyone around him smile as they watched him tumble over his own paws or bark in excitement at every passing squirrel. Despite his small size, Max's curiosity knew no bounds. He loved to venture beyond the known fences of his yard into the neighboring fields, where he would sniff out new scents and play hide-and-seek among the tall grass. His family often called out to him gently, reminding him to stay close and be cautious. But Max's adventurous nature drove him to chase after whatever caught his eye, be it a fluttering leaf or a distant sound. On one particular sunny afternoon, while the sun painted golden rays across the landscape, Max felt an irresistible pull toward an unfamiliar noise coming from above. As he tilted his head upward, he noticed something strange, a dark mass gathering in the sky. Unbeknownst to him, this would be an encounter that would change everything. As Max stood in the golden sunlight, his gaze fixed on the darkening sky, an unsettling feeling crept over him. The cheerful chirping of birds was abruptly replaced by an eerie silence, and the wind seemed to hold its breath. A flock of vultures had descended from the heavens, their broad wings casting ominous shadows across the ground. They circled above, their sharp silhouettes contrasting starkly against the brilliant blue sky, creating a scene that felt both surreal and foreboding. Max's playful demeanor shifted as he sensed something was amiss. He tilted his head, ears perked up, watching the vultures with a mix of curiosity and unease. Meanwhile, the Evans family noticed the sudden change in atmosphere as well. Mrs. Evans stepped out onto the porch, her brow furrowed with concern as she called for Max to return. "Max! Come back here," she shouted, but the puppy remained transfixed by the sight above. The family gathered near the porch, their eyes scanning the sky and surrounding fields. Mr. Evans pointed towards the flock, worry etched on his face. "What are they doing here? Vultures don't usually come this close to our home," he mused aloud. Their thoughts raced from possible dangers to their livestock and Max himself. They had heard stories of vultures gathering near sick animals or carrion, and anxiety settled thickly in the air. As Max took a cautious step forward, instinctively drawn to investigate, he felt a strange pull toward the gathering birds, a mix of fear and intrigue guiding his actions. He barked softly, a sound that broke through the tension of the moment, as if trying to understand what this unexpected encounter meant for him and his family. Little did they know that this peculiar phenomenon would set in motion a series of events that would reveal Max's true character. As Max ventured closer to the circling vultures, anxiety swept through the Evans family like a cold wind. Mrs. Evans clutched the railing of the porch, her heart racing as she watched her puppy inch toward danger. "What are they doing here? This isn't like them," she murmured, glancing at her husband with wide eyes. Mr. Evans squinted at the ominous shapes in the sky, his mind racing with worry. "They usually only come when there's something dead nearby," he replied, a frown deepening on his face. "We need to make sure Max stays safe." He called out again, his voice edged with urgency. "Max! Come back!" But the draw of the unknown had captured Max's attention, and he whimpered softly in response, caught between his owner's voice and the eerie allure of the scouring birds. The couple exchanged worried glances, aware that their livestock could be vulnerable as well. They had recently lost a few chickens to a fox, and now this uninvited flock was adding to their concerns. "What if they're here looking for something?" Mrs. Evans asked nervously, envisioning the worst-case scenarios involving their beloved animals. Mr. Evans shook his head, trying to dismiss his wife's fears while sharing in her worry. "Let's check the barn and fields, perhaps they're simply passing through." As they both made their way down from the porch, keeping an eye on Max's playful movements, their hearts tightened at the thought of potential threats. With each circle the vultures made overhead, the atmosphere grew heavier with unease. The family felt trapped in a moment filled with uncertainty, their minds flooded with thoughts of what danger might lie ahead. Yet, amidst this growing fear lay a flicker of hope that their vigilant puppy would remain unharmed and prove to be more than just an innocent observer in this unfolding drama. Max's heart raced with excitement as he inched closer to the flock, entranced by their strange behavior and the rustling sounds of their wings. The otherworldly sight before him drew him in like a moth to a flame. His senses sharpened, the vibrant colors of his surroundings faded into the background, and all that mattered was the swirling mass overhead. He barked softly, a curious sound that echoed into the tense silence, seeking connection with the birds that danced in the afternoon sky. Despite his family's urgent calls, Max felt an instinctual need to understand this enigma. As he padded cautiously through the tall grass, his little tail wagged eagerly, unable to suppress his thrill of discovery. Each step closer revealed more details, the glint of sunlight reflecting off their feathers and their sharp silhouettes against the blue expanse above. It was as if they were part of a secret world, beckoning him to explore further. With every flutter of wings, Max's excitement grew, and he began prancing around playfully, oblivious to the escalating worry etched on his family's faces. They could only watch helplessly as he ventured deeper into the field, feeling torn between their protective instincts and knowing that a puppy's curiosity often led to uncharted adventures. Max suddenly halted, captivated by one vulture that appeared to glide lower than the others, almost as if inviting him closer. His instincts urged him forward, driven by an urge to investigate further. He let out another yip of delight. The thrill overwhelmed any caution he might have felt moments before. Yet while Max was entranced by this peculiar gathering of birds, his family stood by with bated breath, praying that their beloved puppy's adventurous spirit wouldn't lead him into harm's way. Little did they know that this moment would set forth an extraordinary journey that none of them could have anticipated. As Max edged closer to the flock of vultures, captivated by their presence, the tranquility of the afternoon was suddenly shattered. A sharp and unexpected cry pierced the air, catching everyone's attention, including Max's. In that instant, a baby bird tumbled from a nearby tree, flapping its tiny wings in a frantic attempt to regain its balance. The little creature landed with a soft thud on the grass, vulnerable and confused. The moment the baby bird hit the ground, chaos erupted among the vultures hovering above. Their once leisurely circles transformed into frenzied swoops as they swooped lower, drawn by the sight of easy prey. Max's ears perked up at this commotion, his instincts kicked in as he rushed toward the sound, propelled not only by curiosity but an innate drive to protect. Max paused, torn between the fluttering chick on the ground and the ominous birds flying above. The situation was escalating quickly, the baby bird's terrified chirps echoed through the field as it struggled to right itself, while overhead, wings flapped wildly in a race against time. The noise sent shivers down Max's spine, something primal stirred within him. He let out a growl, a protective instinct urging him forward. Despite the movement above him causing panic within his family's hearts, courage surged through Max's small frame as he positioned himself between the baby bird and the descending vultures. His golden coat trembled slightly as he barked fiercely at them, trying to deter their approach. The flock hesitated for just a moment, caught off guard by this brave little guardian standing defiantly in their path. The scene unfolded like a moment frozen in time. Amidst tension and uncertainty stood a playful puppy ready to defend an innocent life in dire need of help. Unknown to everyone watching, including Max himself, this defining moment would lay the groundwork for something truly incredible to emerge from this unexpected encounter. Max felt a surge of bravery pulse through him as he stood firmly between the vulnerable baby bird and the looming threat of the vultures. His heart raced, not from fear, but from an instinctual urge to protect. The little bird, chirping in distress, blinked up at him with wide, fearful eyes, and Max realized that in this moment he was more than just a playful puppy, he was a guardian. With every flutter of wings above, the shadows loomed larger, and the call of danger rang loud in his ears. Yet Max remained steadfast, grounding himself against the onslaught of fear that permeated the air. He barked sharply, his voice firm and resolute, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling around him. The vultures hesitated momentarily, their predatory actions disrupted by the sudden display of defiance from such a small creature. The tension in the air thickened as Max craned his neck and glared at the vultures with determination, his muscled frame quivering with intensity. He knew he needed to be brave, not just for himself, but for the tiny life that depended on him. In that heartbeat of time, the playful innocence that defined his character melded with something greater, a profound sense of duty. The watching Evans family gasped in disbelief as they witnessed this surprising act of courage. Mrs. Evans held her breath while Mr. Evans called, "Max, come back." But their calls were muffled, drowned out by the primal instinct that had awakened within their puppy. Max darted forward slightly, snapping at the air as if daring the vultures to approach any closer. As he moved, wings fluttered wildly overhead, a chaotic dance that heightened Max's resolve. He let out a roar-like bark, echoing across the field. The vultures circled again but seemed to shrink back, perhaps sensing an unusual challenge from this determined pup who refused to let fear dictate his actions. In that defining moment, as Max stood resolute against towering shadows and uncertainty, he showcased a bravery beyond his years, one that would shape not just this encounter but his journey to come. As the chaos subsided and the vultures retreated, Max turned his attention back to the baby bird, who was still trembling on the ground. The little creature's feathers were ruffled and its wide eyes seemed to reflect a mixture of fear and confusion. Max could sense its vulnerability and felt an overwhelming urge to comfort it. Kneeling down, he gently nudged the baby bird with his nose, offering warmth and reassurance. The soft touch of his wet nose brought an immediate response. The baby bird chirped softly, seeming to recognize that it was no longer alone in this daunting world. Max's instinctual protective nature shifted seamlessly into gentleness as he lay beside the tiny creature. He instinctively curled around it like a soft blanket, shielding it from any lingering threats and creating a safe space amidst the remnants of panic. As moments passed, a remarkable bond began to form between the two. The once isolated baby bird nestled into Max's side, deriving comfort from his presence. For Max, every slight tremor of the fragile body reminded him of their shared vulnerability. He kept watch over his new friend with attentive eyes, ready to defend against any movement that might signal danger. The warmth radiating from Max enveloped the bird in a sense of security that it had desperately needed. Max whimpered softly, almost as if to say that they were now allies against the world outside, two unlikely companions thrown together by fate. This connection transcended species. They were united in their desire for safety and companionship. Meanwhile, on the porch, the Evans family breathed sighs of relief as they witnessed this tender scene unfold before them. They had doubted Max's ability to take on such a weighty role but were now awestruck by his capacity for empathy and care. It became clear that this encounter was not merely about survival, it was about forging bonds that would last well beyond this moment. In those quiet minutes shared between puppy and chick, something beautiful blossomed, a friendship that would challenge their understanding of loyalty and love in ways they never imagined possible. As they huddled together beneath the fading light of day, it was evident that this incident would mark the first chapter in a remarkable journey for both Max and his newfound feathered friend. As Max nestled protectively around the baby bird, a notable shift occurred in the behavior of the vultures above. Initially drawn to the scene like dark silhouettes of impending doom, they now hovered uncertainly in the sky, their instincts drawing them back in confusion. The sight of the small, tenacious puppy defending a defenseless creature startled them, disrupting their primal appetite for easy prey. The vultures, with their formidable wings spread wide, began to circle overhead less aggressively, hesitating as they observed this unexpected guardian. For the first time in their lives, they were confronted by an audacious spirit that seemed to challenge their very nature. Max's bark reverberated through the air, a sharp sound filled with resolve that resonated even above the turbulence of flapping wings. As they swooped lower, eager yet wary, something about Max's posture, his unyielding stance and unwavering gaze seemed to suggest that approaching would incite a battle with this pint-sized defender. The puppy's determination was palpable, radiating a protective aura that cast doubt on the vulture's intentions. What had started as a simple pursuit of prey now felt dangerously different. One by one, the vultures warily retreated from their aggressive circling patterns, keeping Max in their line of sight but unwilling to test his growing courage. They recognized that their numbers mattered little against such fierce devotion from a small animal willing to stand its ground. Perhaps it was instinctual knowledge or something deeper. They understood that this strange confrontation didn't follow any natural order they were accustomed to. Max's presence had transformed this frightening tableau into a surprising standoff. The pact between predator and prey shifted uncomfortably. Instead of claiming victory, the vultures found themselves thwarted by an unforeseen alliance, a puppy and a chick standing against them in unity. In those tense moments where challenge replaced chase, the vultures finally decided to disperse into the vastness of the sky. They disappeared one by one into the distance, a dark cloud giving way to clearer skies, leaving behind a legacy of respect for a courageous puppy who had stood firm against them. Little did they know that in retreating, they had unwittingly played a role in strengthening an extraordinary bond between Max and the baby bird. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden hue across the landscape, the Evans family decided to check on Max, who had wandered farther from the house than they liked. Concern etched on their faces, they hurried into the field, calling out his name. "Max! Where are you?" Mrs. Evans urged, her heart racing with worry. When they reached the edge of the grassy area, they were taken aback by an astonishing sight. There, amidst the tall blades of grass, was Max lying protectively around a baby bird, his golden fur glowing in the dimming light. The scene was a stark contrast to the tension they had felt only moments before. Mr. Evans paused, disbelief washing over him. "Is that," he started, his voice trailing off as he took a step closer. The baby bird peeped softly, nestled against Max's side, seemingly at ease despite the earlier chaos. The realization struck both parents simultaneously. Their spirited puppy had not only defended this fragile creature but had forged a bond with it. Mrs. Evans knelt down beside Max and the baby bird, tears pooling in her eyes as she gently stroked Max's back. "Oh, Max, you brave little pup," she whispered, filled with pride and admiration for his empathetic nature. The sight of her playful puppy transformed into a protector was both heartwarming and inspiring. Max looked up at them with bright eyes, wagging his tail in response to their praise. The baby bird chirped again, clearly sensing its newfound safety among them. This moment of unity melted away any previous worries the family had harbored about their puppy's adventurous spirit. As Mr. Evans crouched down to meet Max's gaze, he couldn't help but marvel at the unexpected depths of loyalty and compassion displayed by their young Labrador. "You really are something special," he said softly, realizing that they had just witnessed something extraordinary, an act of love that bridged the divide between species. In that serene moment, surrounded by nature and bound by an unlikely friendship, the Evans family understood that Max had done more than protect. He had taught them an invaluable lesson on empathy and connection that would resonate long after this day ended. After the initial shock of finding Max and the baby bird wore off, the Evans family gathered with a newfound determination. They knew they couldn't leave the baby bird alone after such a harrowing experience. Mr. Evans proposed, "Let's bring it inside and care for it until it can fly again." Max seems to have taken quite a liking to it. Mrs. Evans nodded, her heart warmed by the thought of nurturing this creature and utilizing Max's protective instincts as a part of their family project. They gently lifted the baby bird and tucked it into a soft blanket, creating a small makeshift nest in a cardboard box lined with cloth. Max watched intently, his gentle eyes reflecting his eagerness to take on the new role of caretaker. Over the next days, the Evanses dedicated themselves to the care of the baby bird, whom they affectionately named Peep. They ensured Peep received proper nutrition, feeding it small bits of mashed fruit and insects while providing fresh water. Max was right there beside them, observing every action with keen interest. Whenever Mrs. Evans prepared food for Peep, Max would sniff eagerly at the air, as if he understood that each morsel was essential for the little bird's recovery. As they tended to Peep, Max naturally assumed the role of protector, staying alert whenever they were around. He seemed to understand how critical it was to keep Peep safe and secure. Any sudden noise would get his attention, and he would stand between his family and whatever might be lurking outside. At playtime in the yard, Max would curiously approach Peep, gently nudging it with his nose to coax it into exploring its surroundings more. His nurturing instincts were being reinforced as he learned how to interact compassionately with his feathered friend. The bond among the three deepened, blending protection and care seamlessly into their shared moments. Watching this trio grow together brought joy not only to the Evans family but also to their community. Neighbors began to stop by, eager to meet Peep and see Max's newfound responsibility in action. The Evanses realized that in caring for another creature, they had inadvertently taught Max values that extended beyond simple playfulness, empathy, companionship, and nurturing responsibility. As Peep thrived under their kindness, it became clear that this extraordinary event had woven an unbreakable thread through their lives, a lesson in compassion that would forever alter their perspectives on connection and friendship across species. Word of Max's heroic act quickly spread throughout the small rural community, igniting curiosity and admiration among the townsfolk. It began with a simple mention from Mrs. Evans at the local market, where she shared the tale of how her puppy bravely defended Peep, the baby bird, from a flock of vultures. The story resonated with many, transforming Max into a local hero overnight. Neighbors started to gather around the Evans home, eager to see the brave puppy for themselves. Children arrived with wide eyes and smiles, bringing treats for both Max and Peep as they recounted the daring rescue they had heard about. "Did you really stand up to those vultures?" one little boy asked, looking at Max in awe. The puppy wagged his tail enthusiastically, basking in the attention as if he understood the significance of his actions. The local newspaper caught wind of the heartwarming story and sent a reporter to interview the Evans family. The article that followed painted a vivid picture of bravery and compassion, capturing not just Max's thrilling moment of protection but also highlighting the bond that developed between him and Peep. Residents found themselves inspired by Max's display of courage, which became a symbol of kindness and nurturing spirit in their community. As more people visited to meet Max and Peep, a sense of unity blossomed among the townsfolk. Conversations sparked about animal welfare and the importance of compassion towards all living beings. Local schools even organized discussions about empathy, using Max's story as a teaching tool to encourage children to protect and care for animals. Max's actions sparked a ripple effect, igniting admiration not only for him but also for the values he represented. People began to share stories of their own pets taking on protective roles or demonstrating unexpected bravery, reinforcing a collective appreciation for animals' unique capacities for love and loyalty. As word spread further beyond their small town, Max became more than just a beloved family pet. He evolved into an emblem of bravery and compassion that resonated with everyone he encountered. With each new visitor who came to witness this extraordinary bond between a puppy and a bird, the Evans family felt grateful for how one courageous act had transformed their lives and those of their neighbors forever. In the heart of their picturesque town, the extraordinary journey of Max and Peep stood as a testament to the profound lessons learned about courage, compassion, and the bond that unites humans and animals. What began as a perilous encounter with vultures evolved into an inspiring narrative that brought an entire community together, igniting discussions about empathy and responsibility towards all living beings. Max, a once playful Labrador puppy, emerged as an unlikely hero not just through his bravery in protecting Peep, but also by embodying the very essence of kindness that resonates deeply within us all. His instinctual act of defense revealed how a pure heart can challenge even the most fearful circumstances, reminding everyone that courage often comes in small packages. The bond formed between Max and Peep transcended species. It became a symbol of hope for the community, illustrating that love and care know no boundaries. Observing this unique friendship inspired those around them to contemplate their own connections with animals and the invaluable role these bonds play in our lives. Through nurturing Peep back to health, Max inadvertently taught his family and ultimately his neighbors about the importance of tenderness and vigilance in caring for those who are vulnerable. As townsfolk rallied around Max's story, local families began sharing their own tales of animal companionship, fostering a spirit of unity among community members. In classrooms across the town, teachers used Max's bravery as a foundation for lessons on empathy and social responsibility, encouraging children to be champions for animals in need. In essence, Max not only transformed through his brave actions but also catalyzed a wave of compassion that swept through the community. His tale radiated warmth and inspiration, ensuring that anyone who heard it would reflect on their own capacity for love and protection. The Evans family knew their lives had been forever changed, not just by one courageous puppy but by the understanding that true strength lies in kindness and connection. As they stood together watching the sun set over their home, they felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the remarkable journey they had shared, filled with lessons that would echo through generations to come.